Hi everyone, this is Professor Luchin. This is the review for week 4 and a preview into week 5. Actually, correction, it's almost the updated lecture for week 5. I did record it like 3 weeks ago on campus, but they haven't given me the link, and so we'll try to handle it here. Though it's just a slight deviation to what's already posted. So far, I'm really proud of you all. I think you guys are doing a great job. You're getting in, you're finding literature, you're discussing it on the discussion board on Canvas. You're meeting with me, and we're talking about ways in which we can take your idea and make it into something that would be a study, something that should be completed. And so, very proud of you. I think you guys are doing a great job. Usually at this point in the course, there is some fatigue, and I think I have noticed in the therapy questions on the discussion board, that's coming forward. That's very natural. What I'd ask is to basically do what Maggie and what Ross from Friends has what his t-shirt says, and that is just to try to relax, breathe. Just want to go back to a concept I presented early in the semester, and that is that this is a journey. Enjoy the climb. What you're doing is the same thing that hundreds of thousands have done before you in developing this skill set. So it is very, very natural to feel like you're not sure what to grasp onto, but you're all in that position that I would want you to be in as we enter the final phase, because we're basically just over the halfway point for this course, to be honest. Continue to practice your skill set in searching for literature. Reach out to Naomi Shem. Reach out to colleagues within the department with questions and guidance. Look at the government documents that provide the statistics for justification, and keep reading. Keep looking at literature. That's the key. That's the key to this. I'm really impressed. I was reviewing this slide deck from previous semesters. You're all continuing to improve every week, and that's impressive. Again, usually there's kind of a lull point, but you guys, even though you've expressed some stress and anxiety or some unsureness, you're not really showing it in your work. So I'm really impressed. This is very reassuring. Interestingly enough, so I'm going to start graphing the data, and I'm running Pearson correlation. I've been doing that for many, many years in all my classes to look for relationships between the performance measures I collect and the grades or the scores you get for the assignments. What's interesting is highly significant, dare I say, causal inference that the people who are posting more on the discussion board are scoring much higher. Well, of course, for the discussion, but also for the assignment. Opposingly, those who are not posting as much aren't doing as well on those assignments. It shouldn't really infer causality, especially with a Pearson correlation, but one does happen to occur before the second. So I just thought that was interesting. Exactly what you might think. I'll get more into the statistics probably in 2 more weeks when it is the actual topic of lecture that week. I had posted on the last page there, I'll just go back to it. So we had 65% of you in your first try got approved. That's, I should say, amazing. 4 students haven't submitted yet, so we don't know where their approval is. 5 actually received feedback. And I tried to, after reading it, tried to give you a hint on what I'd want you to work on. I think 2 of you have already reached out to me for a one-on-one, and I think that's fantastic because I actually looked at the comments that I provided you, and I know exactly what to say. But I think it'll be a real quick discussion to get you to the point where it's ready to be approved. To be honest, it's not like I throw it out with the bathwater. It just needs a little bit of tweaking. That's really where everybody is. Remember that you need to clearly state the research question. Some of you didn't do that. And so therefore it was, I didn't know what to connect to and then follow, because you state in a way what the question is going to be, along with justification, context, and scope, and then background information leading up to sub-questions. And I tried to make the assignment sheet sort of make it so that you could, parse those things out so I could review it quicker. Some didn't follow that, and that made it a little bit more difficult to, I think, provide an objective review, because that's what the way the worksheet was. If you do have to resubmit, you resubmit it this week, and I'll take a look at it. If need be, we'll talk. We do, again, have 4 more weeks to finish this. Remember, you need to share with me what is known. Some of you were stating things as, well, we don't know this yet. Well, I've been in the field for a while, and I know that there's an answer for those. And I actually gave some of you links to some resources that will help you take it to the next step. Don't pose a yes or no question. Again, we're attempting to learn the brushstroke. We're attempting to learn a little bit more. Make sure your references are peer-reviewed, or at least government documents. I did look at your bibliographies, and some of you were citing things that should not be cited as foundational work. So just be careful. This is just another way to start from a topic and then narrowing to an actual working thesis. So if any of these levels get skipped, sometimes you don't have the narrowing that you need. This is interesting. I've used this slide, I think, for several years now, and I think these common mistakes in proposal writing stand out. Again, this is a common thing, and it just takes time and persistence to stick with it, and some guidance, of course, and mentoring to reach that research question. I'm not going to read all these off. It's just a lot of you made it on the first try, which is incredible. And a small group just needs a little bit more help, and that's what I'm here to do. And it's not, nobody has to start over. Let's just put it that way. Okay, so here is the updated lecture. I'm going to keep it really short because I don't like making these review videos. What you notice on the screen is that the university, or I should say the college, is requiring that I keep all videos now to under 7 minutes. To wit, I'm almost there. So we're starting to talk about study design, specifically descriptive, experimental, quasi-experimental, and post ex facto, which is just to say it already happened, and you're studying data that's already happened. So we get 2 book chapters. I believe it is 6 and 7. Yeah, 6 and 7. I think they're fairly self-explanatory. I tried to choose questions for the quiz that are more definition-based versus application-based because sometimes it's difficult to understand if you haven't done it yet. But what's interesting is everybody kind of does descriptive in some way, shape, or form. Experimental is very difficult to do, in which you do something in a lab where everything is controlled except for the treatment, and maybe the treatment and the control. So quasi-experimental we can sometimes achieve, but you have to really think about what biases may be there, what other confounding variables. The post ex facto, that's interesting, and that's something that even I've done before. Is that data has been collected? Let's try to understand it, but it's not perfect either because there may be influences that weren't there. And in the book they talk about it. That experimental, it's almost pure in its research form, all the way down to the again, the quasi and the ex post facto and other things that aren't as gleamingly pure, though we can still elicit learning from it or understanding from it, which is the overarching goal or objective of research. Here's just a breakdown of descriptive research, and I found what I looked for the images for this were comparisons, or pros and cons here, and you can see what these are. But so like a descriptive observational would be like Dr. Bookman's doing the seatbelt study, where people are watching other people do something and they're checking boxes or they're counting. There's like a frequency. And there's other conditions that are collected as well, like location, weather, is there another person in the front seat, or people in the back, male, female, age approximation, things like that. There's social inquiry, which is something that I specialize in. I've done safety climate studies in which you're doing a cross-sectional survey, self-administered survey typically, based on a survey instrument that either you customized or borrowed from somebody else that they had actually determined its validity and reliability. And they tend to be correlational, not causal. Causal would be longitudinal, but still there are some other conditions that must be met. And what you're really just doing is trying to understand how two variables either vary with each other or how they're related. So you have a population with a measure, and when you separate that study population by a variable, does it separate out or does it stay the same? Things like that. That's me giving you an oversimplification of statistics. Experimental design, again, it's like pure science, and I know some of you have actually done experimental work, and so you know that everything's controlled. You know, the treatment's there, you know how much is there, and you're just studying what the effect the treatment has on the subject. And then you might have a control group to compare it to make sure that you control for the things in the environment. And if you have a large enough set of subjects, you kind of weed out all the issues, the biases, so you know what you got. But it's difficult to do that in the real world, impossible even. Quasi. So with true experiments, you're emphasizing an internal. For quasi, you're emphasizing external validity. And that's the other thing you should be attempting to wrap your head around, are things like reliability and validity. It doesn't take the first time. It's like knocking over a Coke machine. You got to rock it a few times, just so you know. With true experiments, randomly assigned versus non-equivalent groups. That's the nature of the real world. The other is control versus full control may not be possible. And they shouldn't even say may. It's not. And then we've got a continuum over here for increasing the rigor. That's what I just talked about previously. And then the ex post facto, we can be comparing injured workers to uninjured workers. We can compare companies with low injury rates to high injury rates. So they've already established themselves. They've classified themselves, and then we're looking for similarities and differences, comparing workers with illness versus workers without illness. That's examples or applications of an ex post facto research design. I didn't do too bad here in summarizing, time-wise. There's more content in my actual recorded one that we didn't get to hear, unfortunately. So if you did not receive approval this week, resubmit, and I will look at it again, and I'll talk to you if need be. Otherwise, reach out to me, and we'll make sure that it's good. I've already done that with one student. It doesn't take long to do, I assure you. I am not a monster. For study design, what you want you to do is just think about it. Could I possibly pursue the brushstroke, the answer or insight to my question by using this methodology? And I just want you to think about it. And that's what you're going to do in the assignment, is pontificate. Could I use an experimental design? Could I use a ex post facto? Would I just use a descriptive? Just consider it and look into your foundational work. So if somebody did something that you'd like to mimic, replicate, what method did they use? Kind of think of it that way. And share your stuff on the discussion board. So hope to hear from some of you. Otherwise, I just like seeing you guys in office hours. If we need to set up a time outside of the set office hours, please reach out to me. We'll find time to meet. That's all I got. Again, if you got any questions, just please email me or talk to me on the discussion board.